This is Pastor Sam DeChico from Concord Baptist Church. Thanks for joining us today. This is our very first podcast that we are hosting at Concord Baptist Church. We're going to get to know some of the folks in our church. We're going to start with our leadership team and then just share stories of folks, how they got saved, what their ministry is all about. And so over the next number of weeks, I hope you'll enjoy as we share stories from people's lives here at Concord Baptist Church. Hey, it's Pastor Sam DeChico here. Glad to be back with another podcast. I know we took a few weeks off, but we're back in action again. Today we have with us one of our fine staff members, Suzanne Wilson. Suzanne's very involved in both our church and school ministries. And so today we're going to talk to Suzanne, and we're going to find her story out and a little bit about her life, her ministry. So Suzanne, welcome to the podcast today.
It's nice to be here.
Good, good. Now Suzanne, where are you from?
I'm from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Didn't they fight like a famous battle there?
Civil War, yeah.
Okay.
It was the turning point of the Civil War.
Yes, and so you're from Gettysburg. Grew up there, went to high school there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go, Gettysburg High School or something?
Yes, it was, Gettysburg High School.
Good, good. All right, so Suzanne, I know you are a teacher here at our school, and so evidently you got called into the ministry to be a teacher sometime, right?
Yes.
When did that happen?
Well, I'll go back to when I got saved. I was I was raised in a Christian family. You know, we went to church every Sunday. And I was probably in about the 5th grade, and I just felt I didn't want to die and not go to heaven. It scared me. So I remember going up in front of the church and talking to the pastor. And my big thing was, when I was up there, I could never remember, did I pray the prayer? You know, it bothered me. Mm. So growing up, sometimes I felt really, really saved, and sometimes I had a lot of doubts.
Okay.
And we had a really good youth ministry. We had like puppets. We had a youth choir, and we would, do ministry in the community. And a lot of times I felt I'm working for the Lord, and then sometimes I felt you're not even saved. How can you be working for the Lord? Mm. So I go to college, and I'm in my room with one of my roommates, because in college there were 4 people to a room.
Sure, yeah.
And the other 2 were out for the night, and I just went and I said, I'm not even sure if I'm saved or not. I was talking to my roommate, Brenda. Mm. And so she talked to me, and we kneeled down in my room in my college dorm, and I prayed, and I asked the Lord to save me. Now, I could have done that when I was the 5th grader, but it was a thing that always bothered me a lot. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. Mm. And I had to come to another realization in my life that it's not what I did that saves me, not the words I said or whatever. It's what Jesus did for me when he died on the cross for my sins. And I just had to accept that. Yeah. So.
Well, that's a common testimony where I've heard a number of people say that they heard the gospel as a youth, prayed a prayer, later on had doubts, wanted to reconfirm that. I went through that a little bit in my life, although, I heard the gospel much later as a teenager. But the important thing is you got it settled. The important thing is you didn't keep having these nagging doubts. And, it's and I tell people that it's better to pray again and call on the Lord than to have these doubts, and make sure it's settled, because when you're talking about the difference between going to heaven and not, you have to make sure that you're right on that. So you got saved at college after hearing the gospel and being involved in ministry in youth. So we go back to, when did you feel like the Lord wanted you to be in a ministry?
Well, I always wanted to do what the Lord wanted me to do. And he just led me in different ways. I started my college career as a music major, and things didn't work out too great for me there. So then I went to elementary education, and it just seems like that's what I was called to do. When I graduated from college, back in those days, you didn't have, all these places where you go to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
Our education building had a bulletin board, and on it were all kinds of addresses of places that were looking for teachers.
Okay.
And so I jotted a couple down, sent out my resume, and I got a couple interviews, but this one school in Georgia called me over the telephone, and they said they were looking for a teacher. And I'd already decided I'm not staying at home and waiting for a job around home. I'm going to go to where the job is, because I wanted to get out and teach and do what I needed to do. So he hires me over the telephone. I never went to the place and saw it before I went. The only thing I said is, I'm going to need a place to live. When I get down there, can you find me a place to live? And he said, yeah, there's a couple in a church that have an apartment over their garage, and I'll check that out. That's where I ended up living. I went down there. Of course, my parents went with me. I'm sure if we got down there and it wasn't what it should have been, my dad wouldn't have let me stay.
Yeah.
But that's how I got my first job, and I taught there for 3 years. And I taught third and fourth grade, and I had 8 students.
It was a combined class?
Yeah.
So small school.
Yeah,
then.
it was a very small school.
And we were like that many years ago. Some Christian schools, they just don't have enough. So, and what town was that in? Did you say?
Bainbridge, Georgia.
Bainbridge, Georgia.
Yeah, it's an hour away from Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay.
So it's on that end of Georgia.
And how long did you teach there?
I taught there 3 years.
3 years. So then you moved on to your next ministry.
Yeah, and that was in Virginia. I wanted to get a little closer to home.
Gettysburg.
So, yeah. So I moved to Virginia, which instead of being like 18 hours, it was 5 hours.
Okay.
And so I taught in that school for 13 years, and I taught 3rd and 4th grade. I taught 1st and 2nd grade, and one year I got to teach 1 grade. I was so excited. 2nd grade, I didn't have to do a combined class.
Oh, yeah.
So that was exciting.
And where in Virginia was this?
It was in Bassett, Virginia. Have you heard of Bassett Furniture?
Yes.
That's where it originated from,
okay.
Bassett, Virginia. Martinsville, Virginia area.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you were there 13 years,
yes.
And most of it was teaching 2 grades at a time.
Yes, it was.
Now, is this where you met Steve?
Yes, this is where I met Steve.
Steve is your husband, of course.
Yes. So, we were having a revival, for a whole week, and the choir would sing, okay? And Monday night, this nice-looking guy walks in the back of the church service, and people in the choir, because I'm in my 30s now, and so people, old maid over here, that kind of stuff, and people in the choir start going, that kind of stuff, and so some people in the choir knew who Steve was, but I'd never seen him before, and so. He comes back, he doesn't come back Tuesday night, but he comes back Wednesday. He doesn't come back Thursday night, but he comes back Friday. Well, it just so happens that the lady that sits next to me in the choir is good friends with Steve's mom, and she knows Steve really well. Mm. And so Friday night after the revival service, she gets us together in the church parking lot and introduces us. And so that's how we met. Okay, and so I always tell people, if you want to meet your husband, the church, go to church.
And go to the revival meeting.
Yes.
Because that's what
and I'm so fortunate that we had a very interesting revival speaker. So,
good.
So that's how I met Steve.
Good, and you end up getting married, and Steve is a welder, and his job carried him around to a number of places, and I know eventually you ended up here in Wilmington.
Yes, I did.
And how many years ago was that?
I think it's almost 20 years.
Almost 20?
Yeah.
Because I remember when you first came, you said, now, I don't know how long I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Steve takes different jobs, and he travels a lot, because I think you'd been to several already, right? And then I was hoping and praying that it would be at least 20. And it's worked out that way, and Steve's a wonderful guy, and we're so blessed to have both you here in our ministry. So here, so we hired you. You came in as a church member,
yes.
And then we had 4th grade open. Was that right?
Yeah, 4th grade came open.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit about your teaching ministry here at Concord.
Okay, so I think I just finished up my 18th year teaching here, and I really enjoy it. It's like I said, it's a gift that God's given me. It's just what I was made to do, and I try to help all my students if they don't understand something, and I'll keep them after school if we can work it out and work on different things there. I try to incorporate the Bible in all of my subjects, so that if we're teaching something in science, I try to bring God into that, that's very easy to do. In history, I try to bring something about the Lord into that, and of course Bible class. So, but I really enjoy teaching here.
Good. Now this year, how many students did you have?
I had 6 students.
You only had 6.
Yeah.
We should have combined you with another class.
It's been so long since I've been combined.
Yes.
I don't know if I can do it anymore.
Yeah, our school, it's just sometimes we have a big class, sometimes it's a small class. So that's one of the smaller classes here at the school. So you started in the music ministry here when you first came. You started singing solos. And I remember when you sang in the choir, you told me that you used to be a music choir director. And where was that at?
Okay, that was at in the Bassett, Virginia area.
Okay.
When I graduated from college and I taught, I was also kind of the music teacher for the elementary. I kind of did that and taught.
Okay. So I kept that in the back of my mind that you could lead a choir sometime. And recently, we had, of course, COVID hit. Now it's been 5 years ago, and it kind of shut down some things, shut down our choir. We really didn't get it started back again until recently, and I asked you to be our new choir director, which you so graciously accepted, and you did real well. Tell us about your love for music and leading the choir.
Well, I think my love for music started when I was a child. My mom was the pianist at church.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was about 12 years old was the first time I ever sang a solo in church.
Wow.
I found a songbook of my mom's, and it had written in there Friday Night Revival, and I think that was the first song I ever sang.
And that's when you met, of course, Steve on a Friday Night Revival.
Yeah,
But you sang the song called Friday Night Revival?
No, I sang on my mom keeps little notes, and she writes down. So she was my pianist.
Okay.
So I always could practice, so I think that's where it all started. It's just something in the Coleman blood, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Now, of course, you help out not only in the choir, leading the choir, you sing solos. You work in Awana, and
Yes.
what group do you work with?
I work with the Cubbies. They're the 3 and 4 year olds.
Okay.
And when you think of 3 and 4 year olds, you think, oh, they're just little kids. But I'm telling you, they aren't. They can learn verses. They can learn different things about the Lord. I remember when I was a young kid, we had good news clubs. And I was just maybe 5 years old, and the teacher taught about Daniel in the lion's den, and how he purposed in his heart to serve the Lord. And she goes, if you want to do that, purpose in your heart to serve the Lord, raise your hand. I remember raising my hand. Now, I was just a little kid, but it kind of meant something to me.
Sure.
And so these kids, even though they're small, we can start planting a little seed, and it'll grow. In Awanas, every week we have a little puppet show we do, and then I tell a story, and then there's a verse, and they don't have to go home and memorize the verse. I say it and they say that because they're
Sure, yes.
Some of them do go home and memorize it, and they can come in and say it. And then we always have a color sheet, and then their favorite part is snack time.
Okay, yeah, sure, I get that. Now, starting on Monday, this coming Monday, which should be June 16th, we are having Vacation Bible School here at Concord Baptist, and the last several years you have been the director of our VBS. So this year our theme is what?
Rocket Racers.
Rocket Racers. And what age group does VBS go to?
Well, it starts at K4, and it goes through 6th grade.
Okay, and what are the hours?
10 to 12.
10 to 12. And we have a lot of fun planned, right? We have actually a special guest. Brother Tony Rizzo is going to come and give us some of his Tony Tales. And we always do some skits that are always funny because I'm in them. And the kids learn lessons. They have game time, fun time. So it's a really good time. So if you have some kids between that age, bring them on out or invite kids to come out during that time. All right, and so you and Steve have a daughter, Abby,
Yes.
and tell us how your story about Abby.
Okay, well, we were living in Dalton, Georgia. Steve had a job there, and I had decided I'm tired of sitting at home. So I went out and got a job teaching. So I only taught 1 year at this school. But during that time, it came about that one of Steve's family members had a daughter that they, at that time, they couldn't take care of. And Steve's mom was taking care of her, and it was kind of a lot for her.
Mm-hmm.
So we said we'll take her, but we had to wait till my school year was over. So after school was over, she came to live with me. But what nobody knew but me was that I'd been praying that the Lord would give me a child.
Mm.
And I thought, I'd have my own child, but God's ways are not always our ways.
Mm.
And so that's how I ended up with a daughter. And she
Amen.
was about not quite 2 when she came to live with us. So,
Okay. Well, that's a beautiful story. Well, Suzanne, we just want to thank you for being part of our ministry for these many years and your faithfulness. And anytime I ask if you can do something, you always say yes, even though doing this interview was a little bit nervous for you. Thank you for being our special guest today. May God bless you.